Chapter 621 Blasting the Corpse Official Away. The bright red from the rose flame combined with the brown and scarlet of the calamity fire. The flames surged forward across the street, turning the raindrops falling from the sky into white mist. The spell that Mofan cast when possessed by the little flame bell was none other than the terrifying meteorite fist. It swept along the street like a meteor, as the brilliant, destructive sparks scattered everywhere. However, since all 49 stars were strengthened, the flames produced during the drawing of the star pattern were much fiercer and wilder. It was neither 9 palaces, nor meteorite fist. Mofan's arms were wound about by several tiny fire dragons. It felt like these vivid and lifelike dragons were about to lunge forward from his arms. Meteorite fist. 9 dragons. The flames exploded from Mofan as he threw his right fist at the flesh-mound corpse official, the accumulated energy level approaching its limit. Following the punch, 9 fire dragons engulfed in blinding flames jetted out from his arm with a flare of bright flames. The loud, howling flames sounded like cries of dragons echoing down the whole street. The dragons lunged forth, leaving a trail of fierce flames on the street. The river of flames rolled ahead between the buildings, while the glass windows shattered into pieces as it passed. The flesh-mound corpse official was currently in midair, its bulging eyes staring at the crowd, driven by the desire to produce more skeletons. However, it saw formidable flames consisting of a bright red and red-brown fire engulfing the figure of an unremarkable magician, before 9 spectacular fiery dragons flew right at it. The sound produced by the flames stacked together into a huge explosion. All 9 fire dragons rammed into the flesh-mound corpse official's body simultaneously. The tremendous impact immediately knocked the enormous creature flying into the distance. The flames burst into their surroundings. The 9 fiery dragons turned into several hundred tongues of fire after they collided with the creature. The flames danced wildly along the spacious street, turning it into a blazing red fiery river covering over 100 meters. Meanwhile, the flesh-mound corpse official flew in the opposite direction of the crowd, rolling like a wrecking ball a few hundred meters further, smashing the vehicles on the street flat along the way. The flames were still burning fiercely on it, especially its stomach where the hit had landed. It appeared that its thick, sturdy stomach had a hole blasted in it, where the flames were still burning. The wound was nothing serious compared to the flesh-mound corpse official's size, yet it still left the creature in incredible pain, despite its thick hide. Imperial magician Zuo Feng beat his wind wings and turned around in astonishment. Just a moment ago, the flesh-mound corpse official had flown across the sky just half a meter above him. Wasn't the flesh-mound corpse official less than 100 meters away from the crowd? Zuo Feng glanced at the young shadow magician in disbelief. His figure was still shrouded in wild flames. Did he really knock the flesh-mound corpse official flying with a single punch? That's a flesh-mound corpse official. Even an intermediate spell was not enough to hurt its skin. How could the intermediate magician possibly deal such a serious blow to the creature? 4th-tier fiery fist? Zuo Feng soon collected his thoughts, yet quickly denied his own speculation. Even though a 4th-tier fiery fist was fairly powerful, it still was not as astonishing as the 9 fiery dragons. The spell was already comparable to an advanced fire spell. Zuo Feng, what are you waiting for? It's injured, hurry up and cast mind control, blurted out the other imperial magician. Zuo Feng finally recovered from his shock. The flesh-mound corpse official had been knocked flying by the blast. It was still dizzy from the collision, and hurting from the wound on its stomach. It was the perfect time to cast mind control. Even if he could only control it for a few seconds, it was enough to crush the phantom generals close to it. The 2 advanced magicians knew to take advantage of the opportunity. They immediately utilized this moment to control the flesh-mound corpse official. Zuo Feng managed to take control of the flesh-mound corpse official. It began to charge in the opposite direction of the crowd, dealing a destructive blow to the phantom generals and skeletons that were following it. Scores of undead were rapidly crushed to pieces by the massive creature. As the danger was resolved, the crowd that had come to a standstill burst out cheering. All those with a sense of relief after surviving, or those that were overwhelmed by the lingering fear after barely escaping the jaws of death, had experienced fear, then despair, and finally hope after realizing their lives were saved. They could no longer keep their emotions under control after going through such immense torment. Meanwhile, the magicians who were on the verge of giving up were looking at Mo Fan as if he was a monster. The guy had just sent a commander-level undead flying with a single punch. What else could he be, if he wasn't a monster? The river of flames across the street had burned countless undead to death. It simply eliminated the threat endangering the crowd. Was he seriously just an intermediate magician? Wah! What are you all waiting for? Do you want to die? Start running, yelled Shorty, who was the first to gather his wits. As a matter of fact, even Shorty had only recovered from his great astonishment himself. He was the kind of magician that liked to collect all sorts of information. He had heard many times about how outstanding Mo Fan's double innate elements was, which alone guaranteed Mo Fan a spot representing their country in the World College Tournament. To his surprise, the guy was as strong as a monster. My God, a commander-level undead. Was the creature he blasted really a corpse official? Screamed someone among the magicians. The magicians were split into two groups. One consisted of people who were screaming, OMG, like the person before. The other group was completely stunned. They had yet to recover from their overwhelming fear of the flesh-mound corpse official when they witnessed an intermediate magician blasting the flesh-mound corpse official away. To everyone who was screaming or had fallen mute, Mo Fan's punch had left great astonishment deep in their souls. They simply could not calm down for a very long time. The crowd safely crossed the dead street, pushing their way into the pedestrian walk on the other side. Magicians were setting up barriers to stop the undead from catching up from behind. Meanwhile, there were also quite a few magicians on the other end, who quickly lent a hand when they saw such a huge crowd coming in their direction. The crowd continued to advance, before scattering into different streets and alleyways. The area was still not occupied by undead. The evacuation from here on was a lot smoother since they had crossed the deadly street. The people did not stay for long, quickly fleeing to the inner walls. However, no one would ever forget their astonishment from witnessing the punch from the young magician in the black shirt. Meanwhile, somewhere close to the zebra crossing, Mo Fan was panting heavily. His face was pale white after expending too much energy, yet his expression showed no sign of fatigue. Instead, he had a vicious grin, like an imperious CEO. He swung his arm around, as it had gotten sore after he kept the posture for too long. Mo Fan felt like bursting out laughing after feeling the formidable strength of the meteorite fist, 9 dragons. At last, he had finally learned the move he had been looking forward to for a very long time. Chapter 622 The Fearsome Magician. The meteorite fist's strength was already overwhelming when Mo Fan was possessed by the flame bell. Even Dongfang Lai's 4th-tier fiery fist was no match for it. Now, Mo Fan had also mastered the 4th-tier fiery fist. The 2.5 times multiplier from the rose flame made the fiery fist, 9 serpents even fiercer. When combining the 4th-tier fiery fist and little flame bell's possess, the meteorite fist, 9 serpents was simply too violent. Even a commander-level undead would have a hard time against it. Either way, it was clear that the meteorite fist, 9 serpents damage had reached the level of an advanced spell. Mo Fan had already felt that when all his 49 stars were strengthened, the combination of the little flame bell's possess and the 4th-tier fiery fist was definitely comparable to an advanced spell. To his surprise, the damage was even stronger than he had imagined. It surely had no match in the intermediate level. I'll leave the rest to you two, yelled Mo Fan. He quickly caught up to the crowd, not daring to stay on the street any further. Mo Fan acted like he was an expert who had been living in seclusion, stepping forward in the nick of time to change the outcome of the battle, before letting the 2 Imperial Magician subordinates clear up the rest of the mess. The truth was, his energy was completely depleted. If he did not find a place to rest up soon, Even the smallest undead, or a little skeleton, was enough to take his life away. However, the two Imperial magicians had to admit that Mo Fan's punch had helped them a great deal, giving Zuo Feng the chance to control the flesh-mound corpse official for 5 seconds. Even if it was only 5 seconds, a commander-level creature could easily destroy an army of undead within 1 to 2 seconds. The 5 seconds were enough to force the flesh-mound corpse official to roll into a ball and crush a few hundred of the skeletons it had produced. The little skeletons were quite pitiful. Just a moment ago, they were charging with their king to hunt the living humans, but their king suddenly went mad after it was knocked flying by the magician, and rolled in their direction instead. Since the undead had basically died once before, no one cared how distressed they were. Regardless, even using all their limbs trying to run away, they still could not escape the shadow looming over them as their king rolled toward them. The wide street was covered in pieces of skeletons. The phantoms, which possessed a dim intelligence, fled into the distance when they saw the corpse official turning hostile. Without the disturbance from the little phantoms and undead generals, the two Imperial magicians were able to cast advanced spells consecutively. The impact almost crumbled the entire street. Zuo Feng, who was that guy? The square-faced Imperial magician was an earth magician. He successfully turned the flesh-mound corpse official into stone using the eyes of the rock demon. He let out a relieved sigh before recalling the young fire magician. I have no idea, either. I thought he was just a university student with the shadow element. Zuo Feng turned around, but failed to find the young man. Who would have thought it was him helping us to control the situation? Otherwise, we would have left the people to disaster, murmured the square-faced Imperial magician. Zuo Feng nodded. As a matter of fact, the 3 Imperial magicians would not have had much trouble killing the flesh-mound corpse official, but it was too important to let the higher-ups know about the flesh-mound corpse official's terrifying ability. Without the 3rd Imperial magician, it had almost slaughtered the crowd of civilians. Luckily, the university student with shadow element was monstrously strong, and blasted the flesh-mound corpse official away using just an intermediate spell. Could it be that he has a soul-grade fire? The square-faced Imperial magician glanced at the flesh-mound corpse official, making sure that the creature was unable to break free from being petrified. No, I was quite close to him. It must be some rare magic tool, which is able to boost his 4th-tier fiery fist significantly, replied Zuo Feng. Zuo Feng only saw Mo Fan being engulfed in flames suddenly. He did not see the little flame bell entering Mo Fan, so he could only explain it as some kind of magic tool. 4th-tier fiery fist. That's 49 soul essences. If one soul essence is between 4 to 5 million RMB, is he the son of some incredible renowned family? Asked the square-faced Imperial magician in astonishment. An Imperial magician like him had to save up many years just to buy magic wings, which were priced around 100 million. Meanwhile, the young man had already leveled up his fire element to the 4th tier. He would need more than 200 million to do that. Anything over 10 million was considered a great sum to advanced magicians, let alone anything over 100 million. Nevertheless, there was no way for an Imperial magician like him to have so much money. Having money didn't mean you could simply spend it like that. Either way, his 4th-tier fiery fist saved everyone's life, said Zuo Feng calmly. It was rare for anyone to raise their basic spells to the 4th tier, let alone a 4th-tier intermediate spell, which would require a huge amount of resources. Even someone with an extraordinary natural talent, like Dongfang Lai, could barely cast the 4th-tier fiery fist. Someone that had actually raised an intermediate spell to the 4th tier. Mo Fan was most likely the only one in all of China. And now, these 2 Imperial magicians had just happened to stumble into a man with a 4th-tier fiery fist. Shouldn't they be burning incenses and bowing down to express their gratitude to Guanyin, the Bodhisattva of compassion? After killing this son of a bitch, let's go look for him. We need someone strong like him in times like this, exclaimed the square-faced Imperial magician. Forget it, he's still an intermediate magician. I can feel his mind weakening. His energy must have depleted. It's likely that he didn't even have the chance to rest after the battle along the walls. Zuo Feng was able to sense some information through his psychic element. Alright, once the danger is resolved, we should go and thank him. If we manage to resolve the danger. Zuo Feng glanced at the city being drenched by the rain. He obviously was not too optimistic about their fate. Mo Fan was completely worn out, as it was true that he had been involved in battles since the night before. The swift star wolf could still barely move after being healed. Mo Fan simply laid down on its back and fell asleep. If anything, his summoned beast would just wake him up. Mo Fan did not follow the crowd. He had done all he could, and all he could not, too. He would leave the people to their own fates, since he was not Sun Wukong trying to escort them along their journey to the west. Mu Bai and Zhou Ming were more compassionate. There were people from Bo City among the crowd, so they decided to escort them all the way to the inner city. Mo Fan did not head for the inner city. He had to look for Lu Ru still. The swift star wolf told Mo Fan that Lu Ru was in a different direction. Mo Fan said goodbye to Zhou Ming and Mu Bai and proceeded to search for Lu Ru by asking the swift star wolf to follow her scent. Shorty did not follow Mo Fan either. He had gone to search for his hunter friends. The group split up after telling everyone that they would see each other behind the inner walls. It was better for Mo Fan to act alone. After all, the swift star wolf had a sensitive nose, helping him to avoid unnecessary fights. The swift star wolf slowly avoided the undead, considering that Mo Fan's energy was gone. Once they located Lu Ru, Mo Fan's safety would be secured, as Lu Ru was not weak, either. Chapter 623 The Kiss in the Middle of the Disaster. The swift star wolf remembered Lu Ru's scent, and slowly advanced forward carrying the fast-asleep Mo Fan. The area was still free of the flesh-mound corpse officials and the undead in their stomachs. Their journey was fairly safe. Mo Fan was actually soundly asleep on the swift star wolf's furry back. He was too tired. If he did not replenish some of his energy, he could not even cast a basic spell. It was too cruel for him to die after he had just learned a new move. The swift star wolf brought Mo Fan to an old residential area. Most of the inhabitants were already evacuated. There were people moving in the corners of the alleyways before disappearing quickly. They were most likely the people that had fled here from other places, seeking a place to hide from the undead temporarily in a relatively safer area. As a matter of fact, the army of undead led by the Netherbone ruler and the mountain zombie was the deadliest. It was likely that the Black Ocean had reached the outer walls, and was slowly devouring the line of defense. In no time, the whole city was going to turn into the undead's territory, with the inner city stranded like a lonely island surrounded by the ocean of undead. Mo Fan had to locate the people he was searching for before the ocean of undead devoured this place. He did not want to wait for the news from inside the walls, gnawing with worry. He did not learn magic and pursue the higher levels just to seek fascinating power, but most importantly, to protect the people close to him in this dangerous, hostile world. Upon arriving at an alleyway built with bricks, the swift star wolf went straight for the building at the end. The swift star wolf did not take the normal path. He leapt over the entrance by kicking off the walls and landed inside the residence. Mo Fan was awakened by the sudden wild movement. She's here? Mo Fan washed his face with the rain. It was impossible to get a good sleep on a moving car, let alone in a situation when the undead could appear at any time. Before the swift star wolf could respond, the door swung open. Lu Ru, dressed in fresh clothes like the girl next door, stood by the door for a moment before she joyfully ran forward and fell into Mo Fan's arms, like a sparrow returning to her nest. If the blood tribe was able to shed tears, with her excited reaction, they would surely be found on her pale white face. "Did someone bully you?" asked Mo Fan with a frown as he sensed that something did not feel right about Lu Ru. He glanced at the surroundings and saw a few men who looked like rascals tied up to the pillars. He immediately became furious. The three men were dumbfounded. If they were not tied up, they would drop to their knees before Lu Ru and scream out that they were innocent. They would not dare to bully Lu Ru. As a matter of fact, Lu Ru was the one that had bullied them, until they began to beg her for mercy. "It's not them. We'll talk inside." Lu Ru led Mo Fan into the house, which surprisingly had a Kong bed stove in it. It was very warm, which felt very soothing to the fatigued Mo Fan. The cold rain never stopped falling. Even a fire magician would find it unbearable. TL note: search Kong bed stove on Google if you want to know what it looks like. "You look very weak," said Mo Fan. I lost a fair amount of my origin blood after I was injured." Lu Ru nodded and told Mo Fan the sequence of events, from Fang Ji Yu showing up, to her protecting the villagers of Hua Village. Lu Ru knew Mo Fan would come looking for her, so she did not leave even when the purple alert was sounded. She simply waited for him here, as she was still weak and not as strong as before. She did not dare to go out there searching for him. "I thought I would be safer after I found you," said Mo Fan with a wry smile. Mo Fan's current feeling was like someone paying his long-distance girlfriend a visit during the 7 days holiday around the National Day, and planning to do shameless things together. However, his girlfriend's period happened to pay her a visit at the same time, too. "But with you here, I can recover quickly." Lu Ru's eyes flickered when she saw Mo Fan's reaction, like an empress getting excited after successfully luring a little fresh meat into her trap. TL note: search little fresh meat. If you don't know what it means, it's an internet buzzword in China. Before Mo Fan could understand what she meant, an alluring scent assailed his nose, followed by hot lips kissing his neck. The sensation was so pleasant that it felt like he was electrified. Lu Ru could not wait any longer. She was a member of the blood tribe after all, hence she could not withstand the desire to drink fresh blood. She was already controlling herself not to drink the blood of those filthy men, but her red Yakult was now standing in front of her, and she could no longer restrain the urge. Note: it's a daily probiotic drink. Wait until I lie down. Oh. Mo Fan's body suddenly felt numb before he could finish the sentence. Normally, Mo Fan only offered his blood while he was asleep. Lu Ru, who had feelings for him, was not willing to wake him up from his sleep, but they were in an urgent situation now. Blood serums could at most help the blood tribe adjust their condition. They were nowhere as effective as fresh blood. Besides, Lu Ru had only become a blood tribe after drinking Mo Fan's blood, so it was more or less her origin blood. When Mo Fan first met Lu Ru, she looked a little haggard. His first impression of her was elegant and graceful, like an orchid, but she was extremely thirsty after losing too much blood and now as crazed as a leopard. She pushed Mo Fan against the wall and sucked his blood wildly. Although he was losing blood, a certain part of his body did not seem to lack blood at all. In the past, Mo Fan had always ambushed Xinxia like a starving wolf pouncing on a sheep when she was not paying any attention. He would push her down on the couch or bed and do everything evil possible, yet he was in her shoes today, and it felt quite pleasant. No wonder Xinxia never resisted. Oh, she could not resist even if she wanted to. The sound of the raindrops tapping on the roof came clearly. The roars of the starving zombies would echo in the alleyway at times. The clouds of death with no visible end loomed over the place, almost overwhelming the tall buildings across the city, but it did not stop the man and the woman in the cozy, warm hut sticking together closely on the wall. Mo Fan raised his head, as he thought a storm was about to come. He was just about to throw the calamity that he was involved in out of his mind when everything came to a stop. "It's over?" Mo Fan lowered his head in confusion and looked down at Lu Ru, who had yet to fully enjoy herself. "What do you think?" Lu Ru glanced back at Mo Fan. Her lips, which were pale initially, were now bright red. "Oh, that was fast," Mo Fan said awkwardly. "You're tired too. I don't dare to drink too much of your blood." Lu Ru said in a serious manner. "Besides, weren't you trying to poke me with your fingers?" Saying this, Lu Ru suddenly discovered Mo Fan's hands raised up on both sides of her. They exchanged glances with one another, and Lu Ru instantly blushed. Mo Fan uttered a hollow laugh. He looked at the outside. The weather today isn't bad, quite chilly though. His finger? It would take at least 2 of his fingers to make up to his size. Your energy feels empty. I can help you. Lu Ru's voice was soft as a mosquito. Chapter 624 A Test Run. When Lu Ru mentioned that she could help him with the recovery, Mo Fan subconsciously recalled the scenes of man and woman cultivating together by utilizing the balance of yin and yang from both sides in wuxia or shenxia stories. Since the blood tribe had originated from the West, it was likely that they had their own secret arts too. Mo Fan seemed fairly collected on the surface, but he was actually overjoyed inside, with an expression saying, "I'm going to lie down. You can do whatever you want, I don't really understand the details. I'll go and catch a few phantoms back. I can draw the energy of their souls and replenish the energy of your spiritual world. You should be able to recover fairly quickly," said Lu Ru. "Oh, is your body all right now?" said Mo Fan, raising his brows. "Yeah, it's fine now," replied Lu Ru, showing Mo Fan the scar on her arm. The arm that was obviously burned before was now tender and smooth as jade. Mo Fan kept hearing how extraordinary the blood tribe's recuperative ability was, and now he finally believed it. The woman who looked weak just a moment ago suddenly became as strong and healthy as a cat, and nimbly flew out of the house. Mo Fan was indeed tired. Although his mind was occupied with lewd thoughts still, his sleepiness grew stronger with the warmth. He laid down on the bed and fell deeply asleep. Normally, Mo Fan would be slightly more alert, since the city was no longer safe. However, his only thought after being spiritually worn out was to get himself a good sleep. He completely forgot about the heavy rain and chilly rain outside, the zombies roaming on the streets, and the Nether Bone Ruler. Dark clouds invaded the ancient capital, bringing utter destruction to the city. Cold rain poured down like arrows, corroding the foundation of the ancient capital. Most terrifyingly, the undead climbing out from the tombs, cemeteries, burial grounds, and barrows were not willing to leave, filling the land that was soaking wet from the rain. The previously magnificent outer walls were like a fragile dam, standing no chance against the fierce tide of undead. The outer walls were thoroughly destroyed. The thick walls stacked up with bricks collapsed, the tall towers fell tumbling to the ground, not to mention the buildings on the streets. When observing from the inner walls, the area over 10 kilometers from the ancient capital was completely covered by the Black Ocean. The tide of undead burst through the buildings, streets, public squares, parks, schools, hospitals to the ground, and not a single corpse was left. The undead finally invaded the city from all directions. The scariest thing was not the pace at which the ocean of undead was devouring the city, but the fact that after the black tide had entered the city, the whole land was still covered in black moving figures with no visible ends. One could not help but doubt if humans were the actual invaders of this land. Pack, horde, kingdom, an undead kingdom. An undead kingdom, an aged voice mumbled softly on the observation tower, sounding more like a prayer of death uttered for the city's sake. Could it be that the ancient capital, which had existed for thousands of years, was finally going to be erased from history on this rainy day? The undead extending all the way into the horizon had already overrun the city. Was this golden barrier really able to stop the invasion of the countless undead? Besides, what exactly had awakened every undead from up to over 1,000 years ago, resulting in this undead calamity that had brought so much despair to the living? Being able to control so many undead, was the king of this undead kingdom awakened? Asked Councilman Zhu Meng with an extremely pale face. What matters is which era is this king of the undead kingdom from? I hope it's not that, replied the president of the Clock Tower Magic Association, Han Ji, with a sigh. President, are you referring to? Asked Commander Lu Shu with a frown. Something with the same age as this city. Han Ji did not answer the question, as he was extremely reluctant to believe his speculation. It's impossible to kill all the undead. The barrier of the inner city won't last for long either, especially when the ruler-level undead are attacking it. The strongest undead we have seen so far is the mountain zombie. It keeps pitching the flesh-mound corpse officials into the city from the north, said the elder of the Hunter Union, Ling Shi. Ling Shi was still an attractive battle maga despite her age. Her fair skin implied that she had put in a great effort in skincare, yet the crow's feet at the corner of her eyes were obvious, as if all her age and experience had settled there. She did not show any fear like other battle magas, nor did she act calm and collected like an authority figure. She was simply stating the facts expressionlessly. "We'll leave the mountain zombie to the captain of the Imperial Magicians. He's the strongest among us. I believe even the mountain zombie is intimidated by him, since they have fought each other in the past," said Han Ji. "My people will deal with the Demon Horn's Phantom Lord in the south," said Ling Shi. "What about the west? Has the creature showed itself?" asked Zhu Meng. "It must be some phantom that excels at staying hidden. We haven't seen its true appearance, but the whole place was overrun by phantoms, phantom generals, and phantom officials. We couldn't see anything at all, but the place was already covered in corpses," reported the patriarch of the Li clan, Li Yujian. "It was common for the factions to compete with one another, but in times like this, every faction would stand together to share both the honor and disgrace." A pharmacist in a white coat came up hurriedly, and spoke out without being called on. "Councilman Zhu Meng, your speculation is right. There's something wrong with the rain. Our pharmaceutical experts have detected something known as the Dew of Nine Serenities. If the undead were active in the day, there must be a strong presence of death allowing them to breathe normally, but when the rain pours down, the Dew of Nine Serenities is providing them energy." "It's really the rain?" Zhu Meng was astounded. "The rain is causing it?" Han Ji glanced at the rain in disbelief. The whole ancient capital was the least alert at dawn. If the army of undead had launched the attack at night instead, the city would not have crumbled so quickly. The rain had allowed the undead to move in the day. How vicious was the person behind the scheme, to use the rain just after the outer walls had gone through an exhaustive battle the night before. "It's really the same as the calamity of Bo City." Zhu Meng's voice sank. "The Black Vatican. It must be them." "It's not the same." An unfamiliar voice joined the conversation between the authorities. The crowd turned around and saw a man wrapped in tight clothes slowly walking towards them. His glittering eyes seemed to know the truth to everything. "Who are you?" asked Han Ji with an indifferent glance. The man obviously did not plan to reveal his identity. He glanced at the people in the tower without answering Han Ji's question and continued. "Bo City was only Salin's experimental ground." The man paused briefly. He added after seeing the confusion on everyone's face, "It was only a test run for this cautiously planned disaster here at the ancient capital." A test run. The calamity of Bo City was only a test run.